Hi guys, it's Brooke here. I have a super quick favor to ask. When you have a moment, please take just a second to give this podcast a 5-star review. This will help me to continue the podcast and continue to bring these resources to the community. Thank you so much for that 5-star review.
I mean, the upside of your quote unquote success is that you have an obedient child, which in this day and age, I don't want an obedient child. I want a child that can say no when they need to. So focusing on self-regulation rather than obedience or compliance is just, I think, a healthy strategy anyway.
Yeah.
And again, one of the things we don't talk about enough too is the social aspects. Like a lot of neurodivergent kids struggle with social engagement. And part of it is trying to interact with neurotypical kids. Part of it is just getting overstimulated with any kind of social interaction. And so for a lot of kids, engaging online, playing a video game together or parallel playing is really important social practice.
Hey there, it's Brooke, and welcome to Finding Hope on the Spectrum, where I have heart-to-heart conversations with parents, professionals, and autistic individuals sharing personal insight and life experiences. Together, we dive deep into supports, programs, and stories that offer inspiration, insight, and most importantly, hope for the neurodiverse community. Before we begin with today's topic, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And if you know someone who this would be helpful for, please pass it along. Remember to always stay curious, be kind, and have an open heart.
Well, let's get started. I'm really excited. I have a guest that actually, your episode is released this week, so this is exciting. We have you back on, Dr. Budding, and really excited to talk about this topic. And so today we're going to be talking about something that comes up a lot in many homes with children, all kinds of children, and that is video games and just gaming in general and how it brings out a lot of worry and concern with families, and it's confusing and overwhelming. I know as a mom myself of 2 girls, they're just starting to get into games, and so it's been a journey for me to kind of play with them and learn what they're doing and understand that they're playing with their friends, so it feels good. But also, what is that line that we cross when it's not healthy and too much? And so I'm so grateful that you have this area of expertise in this, and you also enjoy games yourself, so you can speak about it from a personal level, and we can just talk about what's going on when it comes to video games and families, and when it's healthy versus unhealthy, and all the things. So Dr. Budding is a board-certified neuropsychologist, and she brings a deeply affirming lens in neurodiversity and the nervous system regulation and family dynamics. And if you haven't listened to the other episode where she was on, I highly recommend it. And so, Dr. Budding, let's just kind of start from the beginning. If you could share a little bit about your background, why video games have become such an important topic for families.
Okay, let's jump in. So I am older than I look. And I have been playing video games for, most of my adult life. Back in the day, the scene has changed dramatically over the past 10 years or so. I used to guest on gaming podcasts, but a lot of those aren't even extant anymore. So the landscape is very different now, both in terms of game development and games journalism and people talking about video games. Years ago, the big kind of game that everybody was talking about or worried about was World of Warcraft, because it was very popular and parents were worried that their kids were getting addicted and spending all their time. South Park even had an episode about it. And back then, one of the things I would talk about was looking at how much time people were spending, and also to learn something about the games that your kids are playing. Again, back then it was fairly simple. We had PC games, we had PlayStation, we had Xbox, and then the various Nintendo game consoles and handhelds came along. So in some ways it was much simpler. There weren't quite as many games, and a lot of the issue was around solo gaming, kids hyper focusing on a game to regulate versus engaging socially with other people, and the different constraints and boundaries that parents would think about for that, thinking about the content of the games. Over time, it has just gotten so much broader in terms of the games that are available. In particular, Roblox has just taken off. And Roblox is not a game. Roblox is a platform. And there's constantly new games coming out. There's been a lot of stuff that's come up around age restrictions for who can get on there, who can access a microphone, what games are being played. And that's sort of beyond what I deal with on a daily basis. When I don't play those kinds of games, I know about them.
Yeah.
I hear about them. I'm still an old school RPG player. I like to play games with stories, although most of the studios that put out those games that I like to play are gone. They've been dismantled. But the issues are still coming up in terms of, again, kids' access to media in general, but especially to video games, and how kids are using that access. And, again, the two issues that remain are really content, like what are they playing?
Yeah.
And always comes back to parents ultimately paying attention to what their kids are doing. So it's not just making sure that you have the guardrails of parental controls for like ages and stuff, but to actually take a look at what the content is of what the games kids are playing. And also time, because everybody's going to have a different self-regulation point. I mean, a lot of people, not just neurodivergent people, but especially neurodivergent people, really need to have some hyperfocus time, especially after using up tons of energy during the day, managing school demands, interpersonal demands, keeping it together. They just want to get home and they want to hyperfocus on something. What that something is can range dramatically from person to person. Yep. So, I know some kids who will never stop talking about, even today, Five Nights at Freddy's has been a very popular game.
Oh, that's a game now. Okay. I didn't know that was
a game. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's is sort of like being trapped in a Chuck E. Cheese.
I know. I saw that movie trailer. That does not look interesting to me. That looks really scary.
But some kids really like to be scared. Yeah. I was not that kid, and my kids weren't into that, but some kids just love that little bit of scariness. There's another, what is it? There's another game that's out. It's called Poppy's Playtime. That's also it's kind of a scary game, but it's still geared toward younger teens and preteens. But one of the issues is what's age appropriate. So one of the things that I recommend to parents, and I strongly recommend, is to keep up with Patrick Klepek's work. He is somebody who's been in the games industry since he was a teenager. He's been in games media since he was a teen, literally. And now, as an adult, he has children of his own. And so he has developed a show and a newsletter called Crossplay, which is specifically for parents and children, and discussing age-appropriate games and keeping up with all of the current games that are being released.
Yeah.
So he does the work.
Yes.
In terms of and also talking about issues like this. What games do you let your kids play? How old should they be? One of the games that I enjoy and that a lot of children enjoy is Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's on the Switch. And it's very cute, and there's lots of things that I like about it, including links to real world things. Like you can create an aquarium and literally go hang out and look at the fish, right? There's some real world analogies you can find there that I think are nice, and it's a game that you can sit kind of side by side and play together with your kid.
Yeah.
So a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
and it's very benign.
Yeah.
So it's not a high stimulation game. Other kinds of games tend to be more stimulating when you play them.
Mm-hmm.
And some kids really like that. There's, for the kind of low violence games, there's like Splatoon, which is another Nintendo game where these little squid kids run around. They're very cute and they shoot like paint at each other.
Okay. Yes.
So there's not like blood splattering everywhere. It doesn't have like the heavy violence thing. Although again, there's really, as much as people like to talk about links between violent video games and actual violence, there really isn't one.
Uh-huh.
It's more a matter of what kind of content are you consuming, and is it causing you distress?
Mm-hmm.
Are you finding the level of violence exciting? What do we do about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that you mentioned that I want to make sure we unpack a little bit more is that some of our clients need to come home from school and kind of like hyperfocus, or I'm not sure if that's the exact term you mentioned, but I understand what you're referring to, just to help with their own nervous system and regulation.
Yeah. I mean, back in my day, we had books, right? Like, so I was the kid where, if we went to a social setting or whatever, I'd have my book in my pocket. I'd bring it out and read, or find the magazines that were around in the house. Because when I was a kid, we didn't have video games. I think Pong came out eventually, and that was really exciting. So
yeah,
there's always been a need to hyper-focus on something in order to re-regulate. The issue is what is being used. And also, if it's a more active kind of, there's reading, which is passive activity.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's engaging in material that is more active in nature.
Mm-hmm.
And what you don't want is to switch over from hyper-focusing and calming down to then starting to get overstimulated again. And then, kid starts getting overstimulated. A parent sees the signs that, my kid's starting to, you can start hearing the getting upset.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, my kids are older, so they do what they want, right? But when they're around, I can always tell when they're playing MOBA games, which is a particular kind of video game where they're group playing, and I can tell they're playing one of those, like League of Legends or one of those types of games, by the level and volume of cursing. So
yes.
There's certain kinds of games that are inherently more frustrating to play. And by the time a younger kid is overstimulated again, and you have to cut them off, they will flip out.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people come to me and they're talking about how they don't want to make their kid go cold turkey, right, and have nothing, because that's not going to help anybody. But there's that sweet spot where somebody has time, they're hyper-focusing, they're doing something they're interested in, and then they can be removed from it to go on and do like homework or dinner or whatever.
Yeah. And
the best way I've found is, rather than going to a book and looking up what they tell you, like 20 minutes. And that's it. I think you have to know your own kid.
Yeah.
And you have to really granularly recognize the signs of when they're starting to get overstimulated again.
Yeah.
And rather than saying, okay, time's up. I mean, we know, especially, autistic kids, but also kids who are ADHD, kind of neurology. No kid likes anything being taken away from them abruptly.
Right.
Anything abruptly.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I found most helpful, and it's a process, but is to engage around that at a time when somebody is calm and regulated, and to say, okay, hey, school's rough. You need some calm down time. You've got whatever your current favorite thing to focus on is. And sometimes it's not actual games. Sometimes there's like iPad coloring programs that people do. There's lots of different ways that people kind of hyper focus on things, right? So you have to see what they prefer. And then to start having a conversation about, hey, have you noticed that at some point you stop really having a good time and you start getting so locked in that your frustration goes up and you start getting irritable. Do you notice that?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And sometimes, sometimes they'll look at you like, well, what the heck are you talking about? I don't understand the words you're saying.
Right.
But other times, again, depending on the age of the child, there can be more of a to and fro versus more of a, hey, this, we need to, this isn't working. We need to come up with something different. But that conversation needs to happen in advance.
Yes, absolutely.
And to say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with an arbitrary amount of time and see how that goes. All right. I'm putting up a timer so that you're not the one saying stop playing. It's Mr. Timer.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So that takes away some of the personal affront. And, but what always happens, I find initially, is that, wait. I'm not, I'm in the middle of a thing. I have to finish this quest, or
yes,
I'm going to die. There's always this sort of wait thing. So you have to sort of navigate through what's going to happen. And I know parents will sometimes use removal of access to technology as a consequence for difficult behavior, meltdown behavior. I've seen that go a variety of ways. A lot of times not great. Because it's sort of like jumping to the nuclear option.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you have a teenager, like don't jump to taking their phone.
Yeah.
So
create a full-on experience.
If they have a phone.
Yes.
A lot of, like without my own kids, we did not let them play video games during the week until they were like late middle school, high school.
Yeah.
On the weekends, we let them just do whatever.
Right.
But once they got to high school, we sort of switched it to, once you finish your homework, whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to do your homework first. So my kids they would come home and they would do their homework first, and then they would game later if they were going to play.
Yeah.
When we had the COVID shutdown, things really started to change, I think, for families, because everything was remote schooling for a period of time. And some kids had a harder time than others. For some kids, it was heaven to be doing remote schooling. Like one of my kids literally he was in high school, I think, would be like thrilled because he would do his work and then he'd jump online and play Call of Duty with his friends.
Yeah.
So that was heaven for him. My other kid hated it. He wanted to be social. He wanted to be hanging out with people, and he would still get online with his friends, but it just wasn't the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think there was more of a reliance on the internet for connections because people couldn't be physically together. Yeah. And that shift, I don't think has been talked about enough in terms of what people's expectations are for how we interact with each other. Like, I know a lot of kids, their main social interaction is hanging out with their friends and playing video games. In fact, I know a lot of kids aren't even playing the same games. They're on Discord together, hanging out and chatting.
Right.
While they're each playing whatever games they want to play.
What is Discord? So
Discord is it's a platform for communication. So there's voice channels on it. There's also typing, people type to each other. But the voice chat is a way that kids oftentimes, and again, I'm often seeing teenagers who are doing this, and that's a little bit different than the younger kids.
Yeah.
One of the challenges I think that parents have is at what age do kids do what activities?
And how does
you don't want your 9-year-old talking to adults online?
Right. How do you protect them with that kind of a program?
That is really tricky. In fact, there are lawsuits now with Roblox in terms of what their access parameters are, and one is how effective they are, and two, people finding their ways around it.
Yeah.
I'm not a particular fan of that platform, but it's not my generation. Like, I know a lot of kids really, really love those games.
Yeah.
Fortnite is still very popular, and I don't really have a problem with that game at all. In fact, I know parents and kids who play together. But then again, it's a matter of how much time are you playing?
Yeah.
And are you playing instead of doing something else that you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So part of it's time management.
Yeah.
But there is also like different like content weirdness. Like I don't know a ton about this game, but there's a Roblox game that's called Brain Rot.
Oh,
and
I've heard
there's
this.
a version of it that's still a Brain Rot.
Yeah.
And it's like a white elephant game, where you go into somebody's base and you take their stuff and prevent people from taking your stuff. And my problem with it is that it's AI generated. I'm very not pro AI.
I didn't even know that this was a thing. What is the AI generated? What does that mean?
Like it uses AI. It's computer generated without human artistic work. And one of the big issues in the games industry has to do with use of AI, artificial intelligence, which is basically a giant plagiarism machine. So that artists' work just gets sort of put into it, and we kind of call it AI slop.
Yeah,
and then people just generate that. So there's not really any like art in it per se.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But there's tons of money to be made with items and things. And I find it really difficult to come up with ways to limit people's access to the internet without just being present and paying attention to what your kids are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of effort.
There isn't a set and forget way to handle it. And that can be irritating, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm interested in video games. So
yeah, it's
not a problem for me to try to keep up with what games people are playing to some degree, because I see a lot of kids and teenagers and I'm interested. I want to know, what are you playing?
Right.
And there used to be a lot more overlap between what the kids I saw played and what I play.
Yeah.
And much less so now. But I still try to keep up. But one of the reasons I recommend crossplay is that like Patrick is on the tip of things. Like he is keeping up, and he's keeping up with people who keep up, and he's talking to game developers who have children, and talk about what they do.
Yeah.
And it's helpful information. And I think for a lot of parents, it can feel very isolating to be like, what am I going to do? Like, my kids driving me nuts with their, constant getting online.
Right.
And how do I keep them safe? And again, there are real predators that are out there. There was a guy, you can read up on the story somewhere, but there was a guy who had a YouTube channel, and he would go online and hunt down predators. But then he ended up getting banned from the platforms, and it was a kind of a hot mess. But there's been this desire to try to put in some guardrails and protections for children. But I just saw a story the other day of a mom talking about their child using Roblox. Has this AI thing they do that they'll like look at your face and try to guess how old you are. Because they put parameters in terms of who can talk to who. Okay. Age limits. And so her 9-year-old kid ended up being identified as 13 and put into that category. Yeah. And she was having trouble using her parental controls to move it back. So it's that kind of stuff that is challenging. And you don't want 9-year-olds hanging out with adults.
No, definitely. I mean, even 9 to 13 is a big difference in development.
Huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge. And I think you can't have access to a microphone at all for chat until you're, I think, 9. But again, I'm not a Roblox expert. I would defer to, again, go to Crossplay. They're the ones that are really like super knowledgeable about the content piece.
Okay.
But regardless of the content, there's still the time and the quality of interaction that a kid has. Yeah. And one of the things, we were talking a little bit last time about my being a sensory motor oriented person, that I think that sensory function is super important, as is motor function, and movement is incredibly important for self-regulation. So part of the challenge of kids who are spending too much time on screens is that they're sedentary. Yeah. So trying to find a way to balance doing sedentary things, because again, being tired is a thing, right?
Right.
But also moving your body, because it's so important for physical and mental health to be moving.
Right. 100%. Yeah.
There are some games, actually. There was, I think it may have come out during kind of shutdown times. Ring Fit Adventures it's on the Switch, and I'm pretty sure, it's on the Switch, and it has like, it's movement based, and you do stuff and like you move around, and it's a game that you play, but it has movement in it.
Yeah.
Rhythm games are another thing that some kids play.
Yeah.
That you know, unless you're doing like Dance Revolution, where you're literally dancing, there are some that have a rhythm component to it, and it's more fine motor development stuff, but you have to kind of keep up with a pattern and a rhythm on it. Those can be really fun for kids who have tiny issues. So I guess what I'm saying is there's also ways that games can be therapeutic, depending on what they are and how they're used.
And the virtual reality games, like that, is that what they're called? You actually put the virtual goggles on and you're moving.
I was at a conference, and I was speaking at a conference, and one of the other speakers was the VR guy. And I was like, I can't play those games. They make me nauseous. I get motion sickness. And he's like, oh no, you can do it. And he like hands it to me and like puts the goggles on me. And I'm like, I'm going to throw up, take it off. It's like, you know, vestibular is the thing, you know, so VR can be really like fun for some people, but it can also be overstimulating for other people. And so, and again, I'm not a horror person. Like, I don't watch scary movies. I don't like, the scariest movie I've seen is Sinners recently, which was not really scary. You know, had vampires in it. You know, it was scary in sociological ways. You know, but no real like jump scares. Right. But there are a lot of video games that are like, the whole point is playing them to be scary, and some people love those. Like, and some kids love doing the scary stuff. Not me. No,
that would not be.
But you know, so again, what do you do if you've got a kid who likes scary stuff and wants to play the jump scare game? Right. And how does that affect their little nervous systems? It may actually be, for some kids, it gives them a feeling of control, especially in a world that is increasingly kind of terrifying. So here's a way that you get to control what's scary. Right.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right.
What do you think would be like the signs for a client that is getting distressed? Like, for families that are listening and they're thinking, okay, yes, my child is a little bit more regulated when they come home, they decompress, they play their games. What are the initial, like, I know it varies per client for sure, but you know, what are some things you would say to look out for families that are a sign that this is getting like going into the unhealthy place of dysregulation?
Well, you can kind of tell when your kid's getting irritable. And so I would start checking in after 10 minutes. I would be like, how is it going? And just, again, keep an eye on the level of irritability, because irritability is such a good indicator. It's like a temperature guide, right? The idea of, like, one family I know has a pretty significantly impacted kid who really struggles with self-regulation, and they use access to very mildly stimulating games on the iPad as a reward. I mean, and these are they're very cartoony games. They're very like educational games, or just kind of just silly little games, right? But they take focus, right? Putting puzzles together, doing little races. You know, you're moving your car down a track to do a race, right? And that is very successful in terms of using that as a reward for getting things done. You know, if you do this, and often it's academic tasks, because a lot of kids that I see are very resistant to academic demands, partly because of motor problems and partly because of, motor planning issues and partly because of just any demand placed feels onerous to do. So to say, hey, if you finish this assignment, do this fun thing. But then sometimes peeling them away from it becomes difficult. So the more there's agreement about how long something gets to last beforehand, and there are no surprises, then the better things are going to go. And sometimes I've had parents say, look, we agreed that this was going to be how much time. If it's too much for you, then we'll cut it back.
Right.
So that it's not overstimulating. So it doesn't feel like a punishment. It's not like you got upset, therefore this is your punishment. It's more, look, this was really upsetting for you. And my goal is not to upset you. So let's come up with a different strategy that's going to be enjoyable and not upsetting when you have to stop.
Well, I love that because I think that builds that self-awareness as well. So they can start to notice themselves and how they're responding. That can apply to, many things in life.
Right. And it goes back to my focus on autonomy, right? Like I am not about coercion. So like the more you use coercive methods with a child, I mean, the upside of your quote unquote success is that you have an obedient child, which, in this day and age, I don't want an obedient child. I want a child that can say no when they need to. So focusing on self-regulation rather than obedience or compliance is just, I think, a healthy strategy anyway. And again, one of the things we don't talk about enough too is the social aspects. Like a lot of neurodivergent kids struggle with social engagement. And part of it is trying to interact with neurotypical kids. Part of it is just getting overstimulated with any kind of social interaction. And so for a lot of kids, engaging online, playing a video game together or parallel playing is really important social practice.
And why do you think that is? Like, let's talk about why is that less of a demand, I would say. They could be more successful. What do you think is going on there and why that happens?
I think the level of stimulation is somewhat reduced, right? So because let's say on a playground or in a classroom, there's so much ambient activity going on. There's so much environmental noise. There's so much kind of chaos that you have to manage. And when you're at home, sitting at your computer with your iPad or phone or whatever, and you're either one-to-one or in a small group with other people, the amount of filtering that you have to do is greatly diminished. And part of what contributes to overwhelm and dysregulation for any neurodivergent person has to do with managing and filtering too much from the environment and using up all of your energy doing that. So especially if somebody's online with somebody they know, there's greater safety in that, and it's more of a one-to-one conversation or a smaller group conversation. And the amount of sensory input is cut down. Right? Because in person, you've got all of the sensory stuff that is involved in that. So hearing, vision, there's just a lot of ambient stuff that you're having to deal with. So cutting down on some of that helps with the stress level for sure.
And it's fantastic that it's widely accepted with kids and, these neurodivergent kids and adults too can participate at a level where they feel like it's just like what everybody's enjoying to do and be more successful.
Right. And not being left out, whatever the popular thing is. And sometimes, again, kids aren't even playing the same games or playing any games at all. Sometimes they're just hanging out.
Right.
And talking to their friends. But when my kids were younger, again, my kids are now 21 and 25, and I have a 30-year-old stepdaughter. So, the times were different, but
Yeah.
One of the things we did is we had our computers not in their rooms by design.
Right.
So if they were playing, and we had it in a, like our dining room turned into the computer room, right? So, so they had some amount of privacy, but I could also hear and check in on what was going on.
Yeah.
And they knew. So, there's a desire to give some degree of privacy, but there's also the, hey, I'm around.
Right.
So just know.
Yeah. There's some open here.
Yeah. So they knew that there was some degree of supervision without me being breathing down their neck on it.
Yeah.
And again, those parameters shift as somebody grows. And you have to also think about developmental age, not just chronological age. So some kids just need more guardrails on them regardless of how old they are. And some are able to tell you what they need. Some have more difficulty on the communication side.
Yeah.
But I also think people who have more trouble in person with communication, being online, especially if they know how to type, can just make things so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. And so do you recommend that families are always in an earshot of their kids? Like right now they have iPads, so they can just go in their rooms. It's so much more mobile. They have a lot more opportunity to go off somewhere and play these games.
Yeah, I would do check-ins for sure. And again, kids need some amount of private time, but you also need to be keeping an eye on what a kid's doing outside. There's a family I knew, this is a few years ago now though, this kid had gone online and bought like $3,000 worth of 3D printers.
Oh my goodness.
On their parents' credit cards.
Oh yeah.
So these 3D printers are showing up at the house and they're like, what is happening? So again, kids are really savvy. I know kids who are very quickly got around the parental controls that parents put on their computers.
This show is brought to you by Therapeutic Approach to Growth. Therapeutic Approach to Growth helps families with relationship and behavioral needs. Their holistic programs are individualized to honor and respect each family and their autistic son or daughter's sense of self through programs such as relationship development intervention, naturalistic ABA, and animal-assisted services. If you're finding yourself frustrated or discouraged with your current behavioral programs and would like to see more long-term meaningful growth for you and your family, then contact TAG today at www.tagforgrowth, that's TAGFORGROWTH.com, to learn more about how to schedule a consultation or how they can offer you the help your family needs, whether in person, remotely, or in a school setting. Again, that's www.tagforgrowth.com.
Oh yes, I've had many of them. Yes, order iPhones and hack the credit card somehow and get all this stuff ordered to the house. And yes, you really have to be on top of it.
So it's for me, it starts early, and it is, again, if you take a self-regulatory, we talk about self-regulation and co-regulation, right? That doesn't start at 12. If you're starting at 12, you're hosed.
Yeah.
Right? This is something that needs to start very, very early. And again, having a focus on regulation, understanding how are you doing,
right?
Instead of this is the behavior I want you to do, right? This is how it's more.
Yes.
How are you doing? Not what are you doing?
Yeah.
And the earlier you start having that approach, the better the communication and the connectivity is going to be between parent and child. And so the better communication can happen around what kinds of limits and guidelines are being put in place. And the important thing to remember about most neurodivergent children is they are very invested and sensitive to the why.
Yes.
And so I am always happy to provide the why.
Yeah.
Like even when I'm just doing an assessment and the kid's like, why am I doing this? I'm like, I will tell you after you do it.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
I can't spoil my data, but I will explain absolutely everything to you.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yeah. It's incredibly powerful to give them the why. I mean, you get the buy-in, they feel heard, they feel like you're honoring them to understand what's going on. And,
Right.
you know,
Well, and there's the issue of FOMO, right? With like kids want to do what the other kids are doing,
yeah.
right? Except, you know, what if they want to do what the other kids are doing and the other kids are, you know, riding their e-bikes up and down the boardwalk robbing people,
Right.
you know,
Hopping
like
wheelies
happens
on their
in my neck of the woods periodically,
Oh, yes.
you know?
Right.
So again, you know, parents talking to each other can be very helpful, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think online communities can be very helpful for parents, just like for kids.
Yeah.
I get, you know, my kids are not kids anymore, right? I still read crossplay just to have some awareness of what's going on with the younger kids, because I see kids 7 and up.
Okay.
So having that sort of knowledge is useful, because again, my personal interest in video games at this point are becoming archaic.
Yeah.
You know, like, my playing BioWare games is like a thing of the past for people.
Uh-huh.
And most kids aren't that interested in role-playing games. Like there was a time when MMOs were huge, like massively you know, like the World of Warcraft and that kind of game.
Right.
Millions of people played, and there's still a lot of people who play, but it's not the phenomenon that it was.
Yeah.
And back in that time, one of the things I would recommend is for parents to get to know the game. You know, I would say roll a paladin and play with your kid.
Yeah.
See what it's like.
Right.
And with Fortnite now, they have so many fun skins that you can play and you can run around with. And I'm like,
yeah,
play with your kid. Even like this band that I just love, 21 Pilots. One of the guys in the band, he's a dad now, but he would stream. He would just go on and stream Fortnite and chat with people, right? So part of the whole streaming, getting online and playing is social.
Yeah.
It's a way for people to be social and to talk with other people and engage. And for people with social anxiety in particular, it can be life-saving, actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I could see that. And I've seen my girls now getting into this game where they are playing kind of what you're talking about. I think it's called 99 Nights. Is it Fortnite? I don't know if it's Fortnite or Roblox, and I played with them, and it is, and you do like see each other in the game, and you work together to build a fire, and you know, you're talking, and then they might have their friends on there, and their friends are, you know, talking to them while they're playing and trying to hold together. And they're collaborating.
There's a game called Portal that people still play it here and there, but it's basically this game where you're like, it's a puzzle game where you're making holes in walls and running around. And I used to play with my younger son, and he had so much fun dropping me in acid. He thought it was like put a hole through it, and I'd be like down in the acid and dying, and he just laughing so hard. Yeah. So it can be a really fun way to engage with kids, but if you're an adult who just does not resonate with electronic stuff at all, it can be challenging. And there's other ways to, you know, it's not just video games. Kids can read ebooks these days. They can watch cartoons, and there's a huge variety of shows that kids can watch that are, you know, varying degrees of okay for their age. I mean, there's Bluey, of course, and there's, you know, games based on Bluey.
Yes.
So it's, you know, but again, I'm not going to let my kids sit and watch Bluey for 6 hours.
Right. Yeah. And that's so individualized for each child and what they can manage. And then of course there's always that like beyond for every child point where. Right.
And again, for kids, in most of the time, if we're seeing a kid, it's usually because they have some kind of self-regulatory difficulty. Like, nobody comes to me to pay my fee to find out how great things are. like usually there's a presenting problem of some kind,
Right.
and I'm trying to help sort it out and find some ways of navigating things that hopefully leaves everybody feeling better and supported.
Right.
And it's kind of rare these days that I'm having families come in with kids who have like particular video game addiction issues. Like there was a period of time when that was sort of a thing I was seeing a lot.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be the same these days. And partly I think it's because generationally, like a lot of millennials are having kids, and these are people who grew up playing video games. They have an awareness of the landscape. And so there's, I think, greater knowledge
Interesting.
about what games are and what they can be, positive and negative.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely more awareness around games in general, and just the, when it's too much and when it becomes unhealthy. I think we've hopefully shifted as a society to understand that is a thing, and it can become a thing if you don't monitor it.
Right. Well, and any kind of what we call addictive behavior. I mean, I think I like to make a distinction between actual physical addiction to things and psychological dependence on something. Right. And anytime somebody's doing too much of something, it's based on trying to re-regulate. So I'm always backing up and saying, okay, what's going on in terms of this regulation, and where is this person's body in terms of their inhabiting it?
Yeah, that's great.
Right. And how, and what do we do? And as you do work with animal therapy, right? And it's so helpful, right, to have a kid who's used to just being inside all the time, on their iPad or whatever, and getting them outside, dealing with animals, dealing with plants. It's a super important intervention. And a lot of people don't think about it. They're just thinking about, I've got to take my kid to a therapist to talk out their problems. And I'm like, okay, but you can go outside. You can dig around in the garden.
Yes, get in the dirt.
Play with some animals.
Yes. Move your body. Yes.
You move your body. And I think some kids they're used to not moving around, and so it's uncomfortable initially, but I think a lot of them end up feeling much happier when they're moving around more.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and they don't always know that that's going to be the result, but that after they realize, oh, that actually was really nice. I do feel better. I do feel calmer. Right.
Well, and part of it is parents are people, and parents have jobs, and parents read the news, and there are real life stressors on parents who are then trying to raise children. And so there's a lot of pressure that goes on, and the old saying of put the air mask over your face first, breathe the oxygen first before doing anything else. So a lot of times it's getting parents to also be moving around more.
For sure. Yeah.
Aside from just driving their kids to their different sporting events.
Right.
Which is a whole other stressor.
A whole other thing. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Well, I was trying to kind of mentally think about all of the great tips that you recommended. And, I want to kind of bring it all together and see if I miss anything. So from what I've gathered, from what you shared today, some of the kind of main things that you suggest are monitoring the types of games that your kids are playing, making sure that they're, appropriate, monitoring who they can connect with when they are connecting with others on these games, helping them work on that self-regulation and self-awareness, the child. So having the parents to help the children do that so they can start to understand, the why behind the limitation in themselves. And then having that priming in advance so they can have that awareness in advance of what to expect and mentally prepare for it. Using that.
That's hugely important. I mean,
yes,
kids can flip out regardless. Right. But my experience is the more front loading you've got, the better. And the more you make a plan and stick to it, the better. So that, and this is not just for neurodivergent kids. This is kids, period. Like,
right.
They do so much better when they know what's going to happen and you don't deviate from the plan.
Yes.
I mean, life is so filled with uncertainty. So to the degree you can bring a level of certainty into your household,
yes,
which can be really challenging for some families, because especially if you're a mixed neurology family, right? If, let's say you are, maybe a little ADHD coded, you love spontaneity, you want to just do like, hey kids, let's go to a movie, oh, hey, let's go out to dinner, right? And you've got an autistic kid who's like, why do you hate me?
Yeah.
Right? Like this, what do you mean?
Right.
It's like your lovely spontaneous plan is going to go for like a lead balloon.
Yes.
and that can be really hurtful. I mean, it can really be injurious to parents if they have like a neurology that likes to do spontaneous things and they have children who do not. That is painful.
Yeah. Yes. It is hard.
So,
yep.
So kind of recognizing those elements is important, but nobody gives you a manual when you have kids. Nobody's like, congratulations, here's your book telling you how to be a parent.
Right.
It's like, it doesn't happen. And most actual parenting books suck.
Yeah.
So, so there really is a need, I think, for people to be talking to each other.
Yes. Sharing and connecting about
sharing
what's going on.
Sharing experiences and tips,
yes.
right? Which, again, I was so excited when Patrick Klepek started crossplay. I was like, this is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because there really isn't anything like it out there.
Yeah.
And it's done by somebody who truly loves video games. It isn't somebody like, these evil games, here's how you control your child playing them. This is from somebody who has a deep, long-standing love of playing games and wants their children to have their own love of games in their own ways, but also navigating developmentally what's appropriate.
Right.
Especially in the landscape of what people have access to now. I mean, it's so wildly different than it used to be.
And it keeps changing.
And it will keep changing.
Right. I mean, that's the beauty of what he's doing, is that he's doing that research and that, bringing that awareness.
Yeah. And talking to people who make games, interviewing them and, getting suggestions from them.
Yeah.
And, and then people like me, where, I'm out talking more about the neurological side of things, that you can pay attention to whatever the content is of whatever kids are going to play. I'm looking at it from the self-regulatory perspective and the how.
Yeah. Why do you think it is, like, the game itself, like, besides like the social part we talked about, but why do you think the game is regulating for neurodivergent individuals?
Well, I think it depends on the person. Right. For me, I was a reader as a kid and I had a big imagination. So for me, I like playing games where there's a story and I'm in the story and I have a role in the story. Right. And it's also a great way to get out aggression. I like to shoot lightning from my hands and kill monsters with it. I like to swing a sword. I like to stabby, right?
Right.
It's fun. Yeah. And there's also a story involved in the games that I like to play. Like, I don't really like first-person shooter games where you're running around with your friends and powing. I don't like to die. I don't enjoy dying in video games. It's like a real issue for me. So I can't play Elden Ring or any of the games that my kids love to play that have these beautiful atmospheres. But you walk around and a giant with a club immediately pounds you into the ground. That is not my idea of a good time.
Yes.
But some people really love that kind of game. And this is something that I've seen discussed and heard about on podcasts a lot. For some people, those kinds of games are enjoyable because there is a sense of accomplishment. This is a really hard thing to do. And you've got this boss and it has killed you 15 times.
Yeah.
And then you find the strategy.
Yeah.
And you defeat that monster, and it feels great.
Oh yeah, a sense of accomplishment. Yeah.
Right. So part of it, again, the kinds of games that people are drawn to are very specific to that person. Yeah. Right. So some people love puzzle games. So there's a whole genre of narrative games that are stories that you basically play on your computer, and you can do point and click puzzle games where you are solving problems actively.
Yeah.
There's such a wide array of games that people can play, and depending on what you enjoy, can be really a wonderful experience for people. Like, I remember when the game Myst first came out years ago, which was one of the first point and click adventure games. And it was, you know, very primitive in terms of how it was done, but it was so popular because it was a mystery, and people had notebooks and they were looking for clues and solving them.
Yeah.
So there is this element of mystery and problem solving, and when groups of people are all playing the same game and trying to solve these same mysteries and problems, it can be incredibly enjoyable.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons people like still playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Right.
It remains popular, and there are groups that play online. They don't even meet in person.
Right. Oh yeah, that's a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I love that. It kind of reminds me of the game you were just describing of escape rooms, where you and solve the mysteries and you get clues, and you work together, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So I think there's just an inherent curiosity that people have, and then the ways that we meet that curiosity is very individually based, and partly based on what you have access to at that time and in that point in history.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been fantastic. And I think if there's one kind of small shift a family could make, or they're listening and they're battling with their kids right now over games, trying to figure this out, what would you recommend for them to start with?
I would start with backing up and really taking a look at when things blow up, when, you know, are there certain times, are there certain circumstances when their kid is more likely to overfocus for too long on a video game and then get explosive? What are the things that lead up to it? Is it if they have a particularly bad day, right? So is there a way that you can have conversations beforehand while people are calm? Like, you know, I used to have this kind of running joke. I wanted to make a t-shirt that said less talking, more doing. You know, like, people that, like, sometimes talking is not going to solve a problem. If somebody is agitated, do not talk to them. Let them calm down. I have so many situations where parents are trying to have a reasonable conversation with their kid. I'm like, stop.
Right. Yes.
Stop with the conversation.
I know. You got to read the room.
Just,
you know.
Yeah. You know, but you know, parents get heated too.
Yes. Yeah,
right.
Of course.
So, you know, the thing that I always remind people is parents are people.
Right.
And it's very easy to get into a mindset where suddenly you feel like you're the child, right? And you're out of control of your environment.
Yeah.
And remembering that, you know, that we're all human animals, you know, and we are here to help our kids develop some resilience.
Yeah.
And to remind yourselves that you don't get resilience from no problem.
Right. Yes.
You get resilience from failure and going back and trying to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
This is why, from my perspective, understanding something about neurology is hugely important.
Yeah.
And trying to understand what wiring is going on with both you and the child.
Right.
Because this is, again, we're interacting with the environment. And for our child, we are the environment.
Yeah.
So how can an environment be more supportive and provide more assistance? And if a parent is not in a place to provide that, it's okay to take some space. This is, you know, part of the difficulty too, is when a parent needs a time to themselves and their kid has abandonment issues around that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so again, this all sort of grist for the mill, and why therapeutic intervention can be so helpful if it's mindful of neurology and has an awareness of sensory motor function,
Right.
that a dysregulated person is not going to regulate another dysregulated person.
100%. Yes.
So, I mean, I play video games myself to regulate. I have a day, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go run around, and the Veilguard is one of the games I'm playing. It's Dragon Age series.
Mm-hmm.
RIP to BioWare. Anyway, but I'll go, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go shoot lightning at people for a while.
Yeah. Right. And that is therapeutic for you,
Right. And other people, they're going to sit and read the newspaper, or
right.
they're going to watch Heated Rivalry, or what, it's like there's whatever's happening in the world. People have their ways of down regulating.
Yes.
So kids just have kind of differing needs and, again, differing content interests.
Right.
But the role of FOMO, like fear of missing out,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be sensitive to that. Like
Yeah.
the kids that are going to be like, well, so,
all the kids are doing
Tommy's parents let them play
Oh, yeah.
whatever they want as long as they want. And I'm like, well,
Yes.
guess what?
Yes.
I'm not that parent. Yeah.
Yes. And a lot of times that's exaggerated with kids too.
Oh, 100%. Then you talk to the Tommy's parent.
Right.
And Tommy's parent's like, what? No. Right?
Yes. Yes.
They said what?
Yes.
So again, that's why communication between parents, when it's possible, can be really helpful.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fantastic.
But feeling more part of a community, I think, can be very
Yes.
helpful.
I think we have to, as parents, is you have to help each other and understand what's going on, and and just acknowledge that this isn't an easy thing. This is not.
Right.
This is very tricky to navigate, and
Right.
it's always changing. So it's like once you get it down, it's going to change, and there's going to be some other thing available, and then you have to figure that
Always.
out. And this
Always.
territory.
I mean, when I was a kid, vaping was not a thing.
Yeah. Right.
So I just think that the world is evolving continuously, and we need to keep evolving with it. And I think having good resources is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we will make sure to include crossplay in the show notes as well.
Yeah, please do. I think a lot of parents will be very,
Mm-hmm.
very happy to have that
Yeah.
level of help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Deb, for being on today. This was such a great
Oh, my pleasure.
and I loved it. I loved, your background, your experience with games, and your understanding of it, and then bringing in the neurology aspect. And I just think it's so important for the neurodiverse community to take a look at, understand, consider, reflect on. It's a lot of reflection. It's a lot of individualizing, and taking it one day
Right.
at a
And a
time.
lot of thinking about community, that in the West, we're also individual oriented.
Mhm.
And I think we lose something
Yeah.
by not being more community and communally oriented.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
encouraging people to engage with other people and be communities is
Yeah.
extremely important.
100%. Absolutely. Okay. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I
Well,
really,
thanks for having me.
yes. And I hope you have a great day.
I'm dancing on the edge again. The wind is calling my name. I'm dancing on the edge again. This time I'm not looking back there. You can change me, you can tell me down. I'll leave echoes in every place I find. I break the molds with rebels mind. I'm a hurricane of free, rolling mine.
The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only. The content shared is based on the experiences, opinions, and perspectives of the hosts and their guests and should not be construed as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment recommendations. The discussions and topics covered are intended to foster understanding and awareness of autism therapies but are not a substitute for professional medical guidance. Before making any decisions regarding therapies or treatments, we strongly encourage you to consult with a qualified healthcare provider who can provide personalized recommendations based on your unique circumstances. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge and agree that the hosts, guests, and producers are not responsible for any consequences, damages, or outcomes arising from the use or application of any information during the show.